for this tutorial on how to make a checked beanie. So for this tutorial, we're going to do the child size. I did put a post on my Instagram yesterday, which was Sunday, and you guys all wanted me to do the adult size, but I don't think I have time to do the adult size tutorial since I do like to jabber a lot. So I figured I'll just do the child, give the mod, and then do the adult one maybe next week. So for this tutorial, you'll need worsted weight category 4 yarn, and you'll need a 6mm crochet hook. You might want like a tape measure or something so we can measure our gauge. And then what else do we need? Oh, a pom is optional. So like if you want a pom-pom on top, a pom is optional, or you can make your own with the yarn that you used. But yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna put you up on my tripod, and I can put some brief notes on the screen on certain things for the pattern. So we're gonna dive on in. Okay, so you're on my tripod and we're going to start on this beanie. I just wanted to show you guys some of the colors that I used. I'm not, well, I shouldn't say I'm not. I don't mind like black and white checkers or like higher contrast, but I thought this was fun. So like I used the same color pink, and then I just kind of used a brighter one and a lighter one. This one I used a variegated yarn with a solid. And then same thing with this one. These are pretty much the similar idea. I also wanted to explain that we'll be working the beanie into a panel. So this is one that I've been working on for some shorts that are going within the pattern, but we're working on the pattern from basically side to side like this. And the side that is cinched where your slip stitches are is the crown, and then the side that has this regular half double crochets, it's the opening. So I just wanted to let you guys know that's how the beanie is being worked. And then once we're done with the panel, we're basically going to be folding it in half. Wow, this is an awful small beanie, huh? And we're gonna slip stitch it closed and then cinch the top. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. And what else do I needed to say? Oh, gauge is rather important. However, you do have some wiggle room. So I'll put the gauge here on the screen somewhere. And if you're within a ½ inch of these measurements, you're good to go. If you are on the lesser side of my measurements, just know that the beanie is going to be a little bit more of a snug fit, like a tighter fit around the crown, like around your head, and then it might not be as slouchy. And if you are on the more side of my gauge, it will be probably a little bit looser fit around the head and then have a little bit more of a slouch. So you kind of have to pick and choose there. So let's say if you do the gauge and you're just a slightly less and you want it to be a little bit more slouchy or not as snug around your head, just maybe change out your hook size or loosen up your tension. When I first originally made this pattern, I was actually using a 6.5mm hook, but I was tightening up. So that's why for the pattern, I went down to a 6. If you are on the more side and you don't want it too slouchy and you don't want it too big around your head, like to slip it on, I would advise to go down a hook size. So there's always things that you can do to help modify your gauge, but I figured a ½ inch wiggle room was good enough for those that, I need to move my notes a little bit here. For those that have trouble with meeting gauge or anything like that. So I tried my best to kind of give a little bit of good wiggle room. And I also know that not all yarn is created equal. So I know the yarn that I'm using today, the Premier Basix, they're actually quite on the thicker side as like opposed to like a Big Twist Value from Joanne. Like they're a little bit thinner. So you also have to remember that your yarn that you're using could also play in, like it could factor into the gauge. So that's why I gave it some good wiggle room. All right, let's get started. We're going to chain 39 and we're going to be using both strands of yarn. So we're going to be using both strands throughout the entire pattern. While we're working the pattern, you're going to be having the opposite color that you're not working behind your stitches. I hope that made sense. So we're gonna go ahead and start with our chain. So I'm gonna chain 39. All right, so I went ahead and chained 39, and basically the pattern is worked in the checks. So we're going to be changing colors after every 7th half double crochet. So I'll put the notes here on the screen of what exactly the pattern is, but I will explain as well. So we're going to pick which color we want to use as our main color and which color is our contrast color. So I'm going to use this variegated one as my main color. So if I say main color, I'm pretty much meaning the variegated, this color, and my contrast color is the gold. So we're going to go ahead and start in the second chain from the hook, and we're going to crochet 7 half double crochets. On the last and 7th half double crochet, we're going to change colors. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and I probably will zoom in so we can so I can better show how I'm holding my yarn behind. So I'm essentially carrying this contrast color behind, and then when I switch over to the next color, I'm going to be carrying the main color. So let me go ahead and zoom in real fast. Oh, I went went out. Okay, so I'm gonna do 7 half double crochets starting in the second chain from the hook. I'll restart here using the main color. Second chain from the hook. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then a little tip is that the yarn that you're working behind, you kind of want to give it a little tug just so it doesn't bunch up behind your work. Like, it will stay nice and flushed. And then my last half double crochet, instead of yarning over with my main color and continuing on, I'm going to yarn over with my contrast color, pull through, and then we're going to do 7 half double crochets in this color. And on that 7th half double crochet, we're going to swap out colors. Ooh, losing control over here. My hands are a wee bit cold, so when my hands are cold, I tend to stiffen up a little bit. So I'm going to pull on this yarn that's working behind just so it's nice and flushed. And I'm going to do my last half double crochet, but I'm going to complete it using my main color. So now you should see that we have 7 with the main color, 7 with the contrast. Now we're going to repeat this one more time. So we're going to do 7 more of the main color, 7 more of the contrast color. And then we're going to tug on this yarn. All right, now that we repeated that, we should have the main color, contrast, main color, contrast. Now we're going to do 7 more half double crochets in the main color, and then you should have 3 stitches remaining at the end. So at the crown of the child size, you're going to be having a check that's smaller, shorter, essentially, on the crown. So everything else is 7 half double crochets by 3 rows, but the crown is only 3 half double crochets, essentially, because the last 2 is a half double crochet slip stitch. So I'll show you. So we're going to do 7 of the main color, tug on that yarn. Now I'm at my contrast color, and I think I said, yeah, 3. So we have 3 remaining stitches. So in this next stitch, we're going to be doing a half double crochet normal. And in the next 2, we're going to be doing a half double crochet slip stitch. And you'll notice that with this slip stitch towards the crown, so I always tell you guys that I always tell myself that the side with the tail is the side that you're cinching. So that way you don't forget. So wherever you see this chain tail is where you're slip stitching. So to do a half double crochet slip stitch, we're going to yarn over our hook like we would normally for a half double crochet, insert our hook, draw up a loop, and instead of yarning over and pulling through these 3 loops, we're just going to pull through these 2 loops with that loop that we drew up. So that is a half double crochet slip stitch. We're going to do 1 more in the next stitch, and then we're going to chain 1 with the yarn that we're working with. So we're not going to chain 1 with both. So the yarn we're working with, we chain 1. So we're going to flip our work, and now we're going to repeat this pattern basically backwards for 2 more rows, and then we'll end up switching colors. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to make sure that our opposite color is working behind. So we're going to do 2 half double crochet slip stitches in the back loops only. I forgot to say that. We're working in the back loops only throughout the entire pattern now from here on out. So I'm going to yarn over, go in the back loop of this stitch, do a half double crochet slip stitch, and then another one. And then we're going to do 1 regular half double crochet in this stitch, but we're going to change colors here. So, and just so you know, try not to be as twisted as I am, because I wasn't really prepared. But there's a way to keep your yarn from twisting. You can kind of keep your yarn on opposite sides if you like. I tend to like my yarn on the left side, so it twists more than normal. So usually within like half of the project, I'm going to have to untwist this, but we're okay. So now that we're at this half double crochet, we're going to change colors here. So I'm going to yarn over with my main color, and I'm going to continue down using the back loops only, regular half double crochets all the way until the end, and switch colors when you need to. So typically it's after 7 half double crochets. So here's where I'm going to be switching my yarn, and tug on the yarn just so it's not bunched up. Here it goes. Hopefully my gauge swatch is pretty good. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, we're going to do the first 3 rows, and then we're going to check. Oh, I need to switch colors, so I'm going to pull on this one just so it's nice and flush. Change colors. I think I'm at my last check once I switch colors. And I think my hair got caught into this. There it is. Normal. Oh boy, how relatable is that? My hair is literally stuck in there. Okay. I'm going to switch colors here. I'm on my last check. So on this last check at the in the last half double crochet, to complete the half double crochet for a little bit of a better seamless transition to the next row, we're going to yarn over with both of our strands of yarn. So I'll go ahead and show you. So I'm at my last half double crochet here. So we're going to put it in the back loop as we would be doing a regular half double crochet. And instead of yarning over with just one, we're going to yarn over with both. And then what I do is I'm going to chain one with the yarn that I'm working with. So chain one with my main color, and I'm going to pull on this opposite color to kind of tuck it in a bit. And then now we're going to turn our work and do the next row. So each check row is 3 rows tall. So essentially after 3 rows, we switch the color to the opposite, if that makes any sense. I wish I know how to use words, I just don't. But basically we're gonna do 3 rows and then we switch colors for the next row and just repeat the pattern. And then for the child size, we're doing 10 checked rows. So you'll need 10 rows of the 3. So it's essentially 30 rows. So we're gonna go ahead and do this 3rd row and check our gauge. I wish I had my other tape measure. My other tape measure is not nearly as wrinkly. This one, I don't know why, it always like wrinkles up, and sometimes it's hard for me to measure. Okay. Let's see, we're just going down. And try not to twist my yarn. So I know I'm getting to the end where my tail is, like my starting tail, so I know that's the end I'll be doing the half double crochet slip stitch. Tug on that yarn. All right, almost there. And I always make sure that the opposite color is working behind my working color. And I don't want it to bunch up. Okay. So pull that. Do 1 regular half double crochet and then 2 half double crochet slip stitches. And then here, I'll be chaining 1 with my opposite color. So since it's 3 rows wide, I'm switching colors. So I'm going to chain 1 with my main color, and then I'm going to pull this tight a little bit. And then we'll start the next row of checks. But let's go ahead and measure our gauge. So sometimes I like to pull my stitches out a little bit, kind of give it a little pat. Let me see what my measurements are supposed to be. I don't quite remember because I did change it up a bit for like universal purposes. So let me zoom back out. All right, so typically I just put my tape measure like right where this knot is. I don't know, and I just kind of go from here. So should measure approximately about 11 and a quarter inches by 2 inches. So stay. So I'm right at 11, which isn't actually too bad. I was tightening up a bit because my hands are kind of stiff. So I am within my 1/2 inch wiggle room. So this one might be not as slouchy, but I can always stretch it just a little bit, give it a little give, and it could hit my 11 and a quarter. So I give it a little stretch, and I hit right there, 11 and a quarter. So, and then it should be 2 inches wide. So I'm right at about 2 inches, like I'm just under, like almost 2 inches. So that's perfect. My gauge is perfect. And it's also easier for me to hit that gauge when I go up a hook size and my hands are a little warmer. but you can see here that this is good to go. I'm on the lesser side, which is fine, but I'm not too much. I'm only off by maybe like a quarter. It's like barely a quarter. So this is perfect, and we're going to continue on to the following rows. So now that my gauge is good, I'm going to continue on, and now we're basically doing the opposite color to on top of this checked row. So let's go ahead. And so we're working backwards now. Not working backwards, but I believe this is row, this is row 2. So row 2 repeated. So we're repeating the rows 2 and 3 throughout the entire pattern until we have 10 checked rows. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a half double crochet slip stitch, and then I end the 2 stitches. Wow, I can't speak. I probably should get some coffee. So 2 half double crochet slip stitches, 1 regular half double crochet, but we're changing colors here. So let me just make sure my yarn isn't super twisted. It's a little twisted, but it's okay. And we're going to do 7 half double crochets. And sometimes you'll probably notice I keep tugging on the yarn that's working behind the opposite color, because sometimes it does bunch up pretty bad and I usually forget. I can show you an example of one that's like bunched up. So right here, there's one little lonely, like right here in between, there's like a little pucker of extra yarn. What you can do is basically just kind of tuck that in, but it might end up still coming out depending on the stretch and the wear and tear. But to avoid that, you basically just tug on that yarn. That way it's flushed behind the stitches. And look, oh, there's another one right here. I did not do a good job here either, but I'm only human, so I'm not perfect by any means. So sometimes this will happen, and I honestly think it's okay. It's handmade. It's perfect in my eyes, so we're good. So I have like this tendency to keep tugging on it, so just wanted to throw that out there. And what else did I want to say? I think I forgot. I had a couple of notes that I wrote down, and I don't know where they are. But hopefully you guys are getting the idea of this pattern. I will throw up the modifications for the junior size, which is basically junior and teenager. So the junior and teenager size is actually really good for adults that prefer a fitted beanie. So if you are the type that doesn't want a slouchy fit, you can just make the junior teen size, and it will be nice and snug and perfect right on your head. It's basically not as tall as the adult one. The adult one, I believe I have like an extra check and a half towards the end, like where the crown is. So it's a little taller. But yeah, so if you're a person that likes your beanies fitted and not slouchy at all, then I would recommend making the junior teen size. So it was easy enough. And then the junior and teen size has just 2 more checked rows than the child size. So it's just a slightly wider for those bigger heads. I actually forgot to just change my color. Look at that. I'm just talking and yapping away, and I totally forgot what I was doing. There it goes. Okay. So I hope now that you kind of see the rhythm here. So we're basically just repeating this pattern over and over, rows 2 and 3, until we get 10 checked rows. There it goes. So I'm going to continue this beanie pattern until we hit the 10 checked rows. Just remember to tug on that working yarn behind a little bit, just so it doesn't bunch up like I had mentioned in this beanie, like I kind of like it puckers out. Don't forget to do your half double crochet slip stitches where your tail end is of your initial chain. That's a good reminder. and you will be repeating rows 2 and 3 until you get 10 checked rows. So just remember, after you do 3 rows, switch. Basically, you're doing the opposite color. So I'm going to finish up my 10 check rows, and then I'll report back with you guys. And yeah, and then we're going to do the assembly and like basically putting it together, and then we're going to cinch the top together. I'm excited. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm probably going to put like a little crime show on or something, but I'll be back. So I have something to watch, you know? Oh my gosh. Okay, I finished my panel. This is what it looks like. I'm gonna set you up on my tripod, but I have a little confession to make. Yeah, I didn't count. Counting is important for this pattern, okay guys? So one of my checks is 1 row longer than it's supposed to be. I'm gonna point it out when I put you guys on my tripod, but just take this as a, maybe pay attention to counting, or you'll just have a beanie like mine who has a little bit of character. It's a little unique, you know. Can't really tell. I mean, I can, but for the purpose of this video, I figured I'd let you guys know that I do make mistakes. I'm not perfect, and my messed up check row is literally at the beginning. So like, it's like literally right here where my eyeballs are. So there's 4 rows instead of 3. I'm sure when I turned the camera off and I put on like a little show for me to watch, I didn't count. So I'm gonna set you guys up on my tripod. We're going to assemble this, and we're almost done. Oh my gosh, I'm kind of embarrassed. Okay, so you're on my tripod, and here is my mistake. So there should be 3 rows here, not 4. And so when I ended the beanie, I was like, why am I ending up here where the crown is? You're supposed to end down here at the opening. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Do not make the same mistake I did unless you want a little bit of a unique piece. So now that you have a panel done, it should be like this, kind of like when you're working. But I'm going to just turn it this way. That way we can measure it. If you have the written pattern, then you'll see the measurements there, but you basically are aiming for about 16 inches wide and 11 inches tall. So you'll notice that the inside kind of bows a bit, like this outer edges are a little wider. Totally fine. It's supposed to happen that way. You're supposed to bow a little bit in. What I recommend you doing is kind of like flattening your half double crochet, like the back loops down a bit, because that's kind of what I did when I went to measure. And you're gonna just measure from side to side, and I pretty much hit right on the jackpot on 16. So yep, I'm a little over, but that's totally fine. As long as you're within a 1/2 inch, you are good to go. The end should be about 11 inches. I'm silly. So you'll notice this part is gonna be a little smaller, so that's totally normal. So I measured my outsides. I probably should have done that. I brain farted here. So yeah, I'm right about at 11. So we're good to go on the width. I should probably make a note of that on the pattern. Don't measure in where the bow is, like the cinch. So now we're gonna assemble, and what we're gonna do is basically cut whichever yarn we don't want to be slip stitching. So we're only gonna be using 1. I think my husband's outside on this little 4-wheeler because that was a really loud noise. I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear that, but anyway. So I ended here at the end of the opening. Do not mind my row mishap. So what I usually do is I'm gonna use my contrast color. I don't know why I do that. You can pick whichever color, honestly. So you wanna leave a good amount of tail. Oh my gosh. A long enough tail for you to weave in. So since I'm going to use my contrast color to slip stitch it together, I'm just going to cut this one. Let me see if I can grab a pair of scissors. Let's see if they're somewhere in here. Oh my gosh, this video is a mess. I don't have any scissors near me. What is going on? Maybe? Oh my gosh, I might have to pause this video to go find some scissors. Usually they'll prick me if I'm like near it, but nope. All right, I'll be right back. Let me go grab some scissors. Okay, I found them. So I'm gonna snip off the main color, leave a long enough tail to weave in. And from here, I'm just going to chain 1 and pull this snipped piece down so it's nice and snug. And you're going to fold your beanie in half. You want your cinched ends to be together and then the opening together. So from here, actually, no, sorry, I like to flip it to where I'm slip stitching is on the other side, like towards me. Like I want the stitches we just worked towards me. So now we're just going to be using the back loops only of the stitches we just did. And we're going to slip stitch this closed. So here's another note too, is you want to make sure that all your checks are aligned. So it doesn't get all wonky. So we're going to go ahead and slip stitch using the back loop only. I don't know if you can see that. The camera is so high. Yes, I think you can see that. So I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop only and into the edge. I'm going to slip stitch this closed. So we're just going to continue this trend up. And your slip stitch should be I wouldn't go too tight, because if you go too tight, then it's not going to go with the flow of the beanie. If you get too tight, I believe it kind of like cinches up more than likely. So just be careful, just loose slip stitches are good. So making sure we're on the right check still, like lining them up. And we're going to basically close up this beanie like this. And then once we get to the end, the crown, I'll show you how to cinch the top. Hopefully, oh, won't get under that little piece of yarn. See, sometimes I get stuck too. So, I don't know about you guys, but my hands are frozen. Okay, I'm just gonna make sure my checks are still lined up. We are good. I'm gonna keep going up. I think my other yarn is all twisted. Let me see. Like the yarn I just cut. And if you want to keep checking to make sure your checks are lining up, I would do that. So that way you're not skipping any stitches or you, by mistake, skipped a stitch. Okay. My husband's still joyriding outside. I hear him. Right. Almost there. All right, made it to the top. And I'm pretty much even. My puppy is going nuts because of the four-wheeler outside. Okay, so here I'm at the end. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna basically take a decent tail, probably, I don't know what this is, probably 12 inches or so, 10 inches, who knows, just enough for you to weave in and out of the top of the crown to cinch it. So I just pulled my yarn through, I pulled it tight here. We're going to take a darning needle, and what I do is I'm going to basically weave in and out of the top loops of the beanie. And maybe I can zoom in so you can see it. So weave in and out of the top loops. Doesn't have to be too perfect, but try to be a little consistent with it. If you're not too consistent, then the top kind of bunches up funny. I learned this with all the beanies I've ever made. Consistency kind of helps with the top. So I'm going to continue this all the way around until I hit where I started. I do a couple stitches at a time, so if you're more comfortable just doing one at a time, you can do that too. Goes, and here's where I started, so I'm almost there. Okay, I just made it. Oh, my needle came out. Okay, now that you made it all the way to the beginning, you're going to go ahead and just pull this yarn that you just used to weave in and out of the top ends tight, and you're basically going to cinch the top. So what I do is I kind of help it out a little bit, because if you pull too tight, I'm pretty sure you'll tear the yarn. I've done it once or twice before. Hopefully I don't do it for this video. So if you keep cinching, there it goes. It should close. And what I do is I take the tail from the initial chain where we started, and I use that to knot it up. And from here, if you're like a person that wants to add a pom, you can, I don't know how you guys do adding poms and stuff, but when I add a pom, I typically put a button inside. So this would be a perfect time for you to go ahead and like sew the button on. So like I have buttons that I put on the inside. So that way when you put the pom on the outside, you can just wrap it around the button. Yeah, that's just how I do it. I don't know how anyone else does it, but I'm not adding a pom onto mine. So I'm going to go ahead and snip this. I'll probably just knot it one more time. This is the inside of your beanie. So I kind of just snip it. No one's really going to see that. It's on the inside. And so now you're going to tuck in the end that you had from the bottom. And you can do this however you'd like, and just know that this is the inside of your beanie, so if it kind of peeks out, it's okay. I tend to weave my ends in kind of funny anyway. I go in all sorts of different directions, so you weave as you would. And I think that's good. So let me just go through this little pass, and I'm going to snip it off here. Trash. So now this is the inside of your beanie, so you're going to want to flip it inside out. Give it a fun little stretch. Get that cinch on the top cute, because sometimes you might have to like play around with it a little bit. And I know, look at that, that's awful. My checks are a little off. It's okay. I'm the only one who kind of knows it, and you guys too. So we're just gonna not show that part. And then I fold my brim like so. And it's up to you if you want. I actually folded it for my daughter like a lot to snug it on her top of her head when we were outside the other day. But I typically just fold it just like about one check and a little bit. And there you have it. That is the child size. I'm sure I already put the mods for the junior size up on the screen. If I haven't, I'll put it on here. And basically it's the same pattern. You're just adding 2 more check rows. So instead of having 30 rows total, you're going to be having 36. And it just makes it a wee bit wider. Yeah, so this is it. And I also have like some tags that I usually like to put on there. So this one I would need a rivet for, and I don't have a rivet next to me. And I usually just attach it onto the beanie like so. These tags I have available in my other Etsy shop, Pate Studios. Let me see if I have another tag. This one is the sew on tag. So if you're one that doesn't like rivets and you prefer to just sew it on, you can use this one. But yeah, add your palm and you're all done. This was fun, even though I did mess up a little bit, but it's okay. It happens. We make mistakes. Totally fine. I think, where is my 4? There it is. My big old check. Thankfully, it's actually kind of like in the back because I did mess up in the beginning. So, but this is where my seam is. I'm unsure if you can kind of tell. So it's super cute, super fun to make. It didn't take me long. I think it only took me about an hour to maybe an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't really time myself. But yeah, and you don't need that much yarn. I still have a good amount of yarn left over. I should probably add in the yardage onto the pattern. I'll probably do that before it releases. If I don't, it honestly is really not that much. It's like if you have a good skein of some scrap yarn or so, you can more than likely make this beanie pattern. But anyway, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you watched this all the way through, even though I had a couple of bloopers, I guess. But yeah, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you maybe, I'm very okay with like constructive criticism. If you have any feedback for, you know, how I did, don't be too mean though. But yeah, I'm excited. I hope you love your finished beanie. I love them. They're so fun to make. It's fun to mix up some colors. And yeah, subscribe to my channel if you want some more tutorials. I'm hoping to release more of these for the next year in 2025. So I think this will be my last pattern tutorial for this year. I do have a scrappy, like a little scrappy tutorial in the works. I just haven't been able to get through it all. So that should be uploaded probably next month in January. So maybe that excites you enough to subscribe. But I'm gonna shut up now, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.